Hi, this is Mrs. Slater. In today's lesson, you will learn how to classify real numbers. It really is the most important set of numbers in algebra. Okay, so real numbers. Go ahead and write that down. Go ahead and label your notes as well, and then we'll start taking notes. So real numbers really just consist of anything on a real number line. Okay, 0, neither positive or negative, just a reference point. And then, as you know, you have numbers to the left and numbers to the right. Okay, on the right side, everything I'm labeling is called a certain type of number. So that's what I mean by classifying. Okay, and then also to the left, there are certain numbers, which you all have seen before. So now let's classify them. First, natural numbers are going to be numbers that you learned in kindergarten. When your teacher asked you to count, you would always start with 1. So we're going to call those the natural because they are the most natural for you. Natural numbers. Okay, and then when you were farther along in your grade, then they introduced you, or your teachers introduced the 0 to you. So 0 includes all of the numbers from 0, 1, 2, 3. So we call those whole numbers. And I'm just showing an arrow that says it goes on forever. Okay, and then the next one, we now learned after a couple more years in our education that the negative numbers do exist. And now let's do another grouping, which are all of them going from left to right. Those are called integers. Integers. Okay, so those include negative numbers, and it's not just the negative numbers, it's everything. Just like whole numbers are 0 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Integers are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and all of the negative numbers. Okay, so far all of these are real numbers because they're on the real number line. Okay, so now what's happening in between every single one of these spots? There's an infinite amount of numbers between every integer. So we classify those as well. Now anything that you can make a decimal or a fraction, for example 1.5, that's going to be a rational number. So rational numbers, any number that can be a fraction. Like A over B, any number divided by any number. Okay, and then, for example, if we had pi, which is a number you all know, we know it's like 3.14159 and so on. Pi is a number that has no repeats and no terminating decimal. So irrational, let's put that over here, irrational numbers are any number that cannot be a fraction. Okay, so you're going to see examples like pi or radicals. A lot of radicals do not have a terminating decimal or repeating decimal. Okay, so those are your main groups. Now let's do some practice problems. Before we begin the practice problems, I just want to summarize what I just said in a little family tree. So overall, we have real numbers, and please write this in your notes. Then it separates into two categories. One are the rational numbers, and the other one is going to be irrational numbers. Okay, and then irrational, there's nothing else we can do with that because there's no variation to it. But rational numbers, there are two types of rational numbers. You have the numbers that could be integers, and then your non-integers. Okay, and then under integers, you have two types of integers. You have your negative numbers and you have your positive numbers. And then underneath the positive numbers, which are the whole numbers, you have 0 and natural numbers. And that takes care of all your positive whole numbers. Okay, so that's a little family tree. And just wanted to kind of summarize everything that was going on in that first slide before we went on to the practice problems. Okay, so examples. Let's determine, for example, number negative 2/7. That's going to be our first question. Negative 2/7, because it is a fraction, we know that it is a rational number. And anything we're going to be talking about is real. So I technically could put real number after that, but just for the sake of all of them being real, I'm not going to have you write it down every single time. So just keep that in mind. Everything we're dealing with in this chapter is going to be real numbers. Okay, and then number 4, or number 2, I'm going to give you the number 4. Okay, so this one is considered a natural number, because it would be in that group. A whole number. It's also an integer. And it is rational. Even though it's not a fraction, we can make 4 into a fraction. So think of it that way. Any number that you can change into a fraction is considered rational. Okay? And let's go on to the next one. For example, 3, 0.19 repeating. Okay? This one, you have to ask your question. You know it's not natural, whole, or an integer, but you could see, okay, can I change this into a fraction or not? That's really going to determine if it's rational or irrational. Okay, and in this case, any repeating decimal can be turned into a fraction. Can be changed into a fraction. And just be careful, I don't have my calculator right here right now, but if you go to your calculator, put a 19 or 0.19 all the way across your screen until you have no more room. There should be a 1 right there. Okay? Then, and you can even go to the next line as well. Then go to math, and then change it back into a fraction, and you will see that it does indeed change into a fraction. So if you got 19 over 99, you are correct. It is going to be a rational number. Okay, let's try another one. Example number 4 is 0.010011, 001111, and 011. With the dots, it says it goes on forever. Okay, so is there any particular pattern? In this case, there is not one, so we're going to call this irrational. If you're going to have anything repeating, the digits must continually repeat in the same pattern. So, not the same pattern. So you keep that in mind for those type of problems. Okay, so I'm going to give you a few problems to work on, and I want you to go ahead and push pause and try them on your own. The first one is 8.714, and all I would like you to do is describe, is it irrational? Because these definitely are the hardest of them all. Write if it's irrational or a rational number. Okay? And you can make a little chart if you'd like, just put a little checklist. Okay, so once you have completed 5 through 10, you are done with the lesson, and that'll be the first thing we go over are the answers. We'll go over the notes first, and then we'll go over the answers and see how you did. Again, you are only labeling if it is irrational or rational.